Around, they tried to shut us down by the hour.
Yes, and of course we are still in this bitch as well. We are back, man.
No doubt about it.
DMVCS in the clench, man. You're on WLVS Radio, ListenVisionLive.com worldwide. Of course, we're in Washington, D.C. Your boy B. Cox, Lesson, a.k.a. my man E-Man, Manuel Manny Lewis, man. We're just getting into the fight game here. First episode of DMVCS Inside the Clench, man. And we want to thank everybody for joining us. And we forgot to get into our question of the night, so we're going to get into it right now. We want all of our listeners now, you're listening, interested, you like what you're hearing, then we want to pose this question to you. UFC 170 coming up next week, Rousey versus McMahon, a big matchup. We want to ask you, so our question of the night is what are you looking forward to the most for UFC 170? We want you to hashtag us, ITC QTN, that's ITC QTN, hashtag ITC QTN, and then you can put your response to what you're looking forward for UFC 170. Big weekend coming up next weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. Another headliner again by Rowdy Ronda Rousey, who is tearing the sport apart right now.
She's the female pinnacle.
Yeah. She's right now doing for mixed martial arts what the Gracie brothers did for mixed martial arts.
No question about it.
On the women's side right now.
There's no question about it. Until somebody takes the belt, she's it. Exactly.
But, of course, we want to get to first business. And, of course, we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night 36 last night. Machida versus Mousasi. A big step up and a big victory last night for Lyoto, the Dragon. A guy who, to be quite honest, he was somebody whose fights I did not enjoy watching anymore. And and you know what?
Come on, you didn't enjoy the balance and the tactician that he is by standing in the middle of the octagon with his hands down, just standing there?
Yeah, well, you know what happened the last time, and this is a true story. Folks, y'all out there listening, we were watching this UFC, I forgot which one it was, actually. It was him and Phil Davis. I think it was the UFC on Fox.
Yeah.
It was so boring that I actually went and laid down and went to sleep and found out from E that Phil Davis beat Lyoto.
Well, yeah, after you came to, I was just like, Phil won. And you kept looking at me like, what?
Just boring.
Really?
But Lyoto showed up last night, and he had a good showing last night against Gegard Mousasi. And this is his second fight now, welterweight weight. But he's back down to 185. And Lyoto, I thought, to me, looked good last night. And he did what Lyoto does. He controls the octagon. He controls the distance, and then he strikes. And we saw many times with this fight yesterday, the head kicks he was able to get in. A couple of really good head kicks. Because the thing about Lyoto is that he'll sit there and he'll lull you to sleep, and you'll try to find an opening, and you'll sit there and wonder what his next move is going to be. He'll keep his distance, but then he'll hit you with a kick. And then another kick will come, and he'll find a way to get a combination in there every once in a while he can. And he did a lot of that last night with Mousasi. At 185, of course, after he beat Mark Munoz with a TKO with a head kick, his last welterweight bout. It was good to see. It was good, and that's the thing about Lyoto that keeps you going as a fight fan, because you know he's capable of stuff like that.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, that's how he beat Rashad Evans.
Yeah, he's capable of giving you the head kick from hell that will knock you out,
or the brain kick like he did Randy Couture.
But a good win last night for him against Mousasi.
Yes. Against
Mousasi, and I don't know what your thoughts of it, about his, that, and also his prospects that he's not possibly in the line, and probably not immediately next, but he's putting him to making a case to be the next contender for the welterweight championship.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree as far as him being a middleweight contender. Yeah, he'd definitely be in line for the title, because it's not the Anderson Silva era anymore. It's not Lorenzo Fertitta like, okay, who else can we find that's going to, Anderson's going to stop? So now with Weidman being the champion, you have, the divisions like up and coming again, because you have fighters like Lyoto dropping down from light heavyweight. You also have other fighters coming into the UFC as a regular 185 to get a crack at the title. So, yeah, I have no question about it. I mean, he's a former world champion, so why not put him up there next?
Yeah, so big win for him last night. He said, of course, the decision of whether or not he's actually going to get a shot lies with Dana White, and, of course, it always lies with Dana White. So, hopefully Lyoto has built up enough good equity with Dana and has shown in the last couple of fights that he's capable of being a champion once again. Of course, again, DMVCS in the clinch. You're rocking with your boy B. Cox, Lesson, and also Manny Lewis right here on WLVS Radio. Of course, question of the night, you could tweet us, hashtag ITCQTN, and let us know what you're looking forward for UFC 170. Rousey versus McMahon next Saturday. Next bout, though, on UFC on the fight card, Ronaldo Souza beating Francis Carmont by unanimous decision really found a way to control the octagon last night. He's one of the better guys Souza is on the ground in UFC, and was just able to grind out a very convincing win over Carmont, who does have very good takedown defense, but he was able to stick it out and get the victory last night. In a very hard fought victory, but really just took control, and that's really what you look for in these fights where guys are trying to make a name for themselves. Really, he was able to establish control and dominate.
Oh yeah, no question about it. I mean, I've been a fan of Jacare ever since I saw him when he was the middleweight Strikeforce champion. Of course, that was prior to Dan Henderson knocking him out and taking the strap from him.
Exactly.
And then he made his way into the UFC and started rolling through the division. So I was like, Ronaldo Jacare, Souza, it just definitely is one of those guys like, either he'll pound you out or you have to worry about getting submitted. And Francis Carmont does have established takedown defense. Yeah. And so that was a good fight. I want to tell you who I was impressed with last night, and that was Eric Silva. Yes.
All right. Silva,
very, very impressive.
Eric Silva, who is now 4-3 in the UFC, but last night had a spectacular knockout of Takanori Sato. And Sato is actually on an 11-fight winning streak entering this match.
Yeah, he was.
Silva, of course, was the big favorite, but it seemed literally this fight ended out of nowhere. They were standing up, and then all of a sudden you see Silva land a kick, and the kick, as he said last night, he made it so that he kicked him with the point of his foot into his body, so it hurt him more, and from there it was on. He went up, landed a couple of punches, was able to get him inside of a hold in the clinch, and then actually had Sato holding his other foot with that was standing on his left foot, or holding his left foot, and his right foot is free. And what he does is he does these like soccer back heel kicks. They called it the hacky sack kick last night to sort of get him free. Wow. To get him free. And when Sato still wouldn't let go, what did he do? Just started pounding him, hammer fist. Side of the face, and then eventually just knocked him out. Silva, very, very, very impressive last night, and I learned has the shortest fight time of anyone in the UFC right now, average fight time in the UFC right now. And he showed me a lot last night. He was actually one of the performances of the night they had. They replaced during the fight nights the knockout bonuses and the submission bonuses. He was one of the performers last night, but Silva very impressive now. Is back on track in the UFC, just dominating Sato first round TKO.
Oh yes, I totally believe that Eric Silva is making a name for himself with a performance like that, because anytime you have that kind of total domination over your opponent, and he had no answer. Yeah. Like the fans had just sat down and the fight was over. That's how quick it ended.
Moving on through UFC 136 last night, then Nicholas Musaki defeating Viscardi Andrade. This is probably one of the weirdest fights that I saw on this card or ever. 45 seconds in, Andrade lands.
Yes, he did.
Lands a haymaker on Musaki and then prematurely celebrates, puts his hands up because he thought he had knocked him out.
Nope.
But he didn't finish it up. And Nicholas did everything he did to bring the fight back to the ground, recovered, and control the rest of that fight to get a unanimous decision. Now, if that's not celebrating before the eggs are hatched, before the bread is baked, and any other analogy you could put out there, I mean, if you knock him down, you're supposed to finish him. Yeah. If you knock him down like the way that he knocked him down yesterday, you're supposed to finish him.
Oh, yes, you have to finish him out with ground and pound, but, he decided just, have pomp and circumstance, and it cost him. That's why they even have it on the Ultimate Fighter in the locker rooms. Do not leave it in the hands of the judges.
Don't do it. And he left it in the hands of the judges, and Andrade did not capitalize on a big enough opportunity last night.
No, he went home empty-handed.
And then the last fight on the main card, Charles Oliveira victorious over Andy Ogle last night, submission on a triangle choke, the quick tap. And Oliveira was expected to roll in this fight. But Andy Ogle was very good in his takedown and in his submission defense. He was very good on the ground. Had Oliveira on his back where Oliveira wanted to be because he's very good on his back throughout most of the fight.
Yes.
Ogle did show some heart, did stay in there and fight, but in the end, Oliveira was able to take his legs around his head and then get it around his neck, get him in a triangle choke and the quick tap out. But a big win for Oliveira, and he had to struggle for it a little bit, man, but a good way to pull out to put it out of the judges' hands and to get the victory by tap out.
Definitely. I mean, just the way that he displayed the ground game and showed that just like, okay, you say you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, show me, and he showed him.
Yeah. Yeah. So big stuff, of course, for UFC Fight Night last night. Machida, Musasi, Silva, and Oliveira all getting 50,000 Fight Night bonuses for UFC Fight Night 36. Of course, Machida and Musasi getting the fight of the night honors last night, and then Silva and Oliveira for their respective finishes got the performances of the night. Now look ahead to UFC 170. And, of course, we look at the big fight, Rousey and McMahon. This is something that is it's huge because now we have Ronda, who has been dominant ever since she's been in Strikeforce and in the UFC.
Yes.
Miesha Tate was the first person, I believe, in a while to get out of the first round with her.
Yes.
But she still won. But now with Ronda Rousey being a medal-winning judo practitioner for the United States, faces now a silver medalist in wrestling in Sarah McMahon.
Yes.
And McMahon has now gone on the record in saying that, it's not just stand up with me. You got to be prepared to defend everything with me because I'm coming with everything. That's what she says to Ronda. Now, we know Ronda, of course, is the best. She's the best in the sport right now as far as women are concerned. But how concerned should she be dealing? And we see this when anybody who's good on stand-up, and of course she has her judo background, but whenever you deal with somebody who's a wrestler and someone who's an accomplished wrestler, the elite tend to struggle against them more often than not. How concerned should she be, though, in this fight against McMahon?
Oh, she should be very concerned. The one thing that will neutralize anything as far as like just basically any base is a very, very strong, good wrestler because she's not going to get tired. And if she gets top position, she'll elbow and hammer fist her and try to pound her out.
Yep.
Or if not, if she wants to pummel her against the cage and then shoot for the double leg and then take her down. Mm-hmm. I'm like, she can do that. So besides, people fall into the judo trap. If I rush Ronda, I'm like, no, you're just setting yourself. If you're thrown on top of your head, she's going to pass your guard and then you get armbarred.
Yeah, and of course, you're listening again to DMVCS in the Clinch. B. Cox, a.k.a. your boy Lesson. Of course, E-Man, my man Manny Lewis here. We are here, our first broadcast on WLVS Radio. Of course, hit us up on Twitter at DMVCS, man, to answer our question of the night. Hashtag ITC, QTN, and what you're looking forward for to UFC 170 next week. And wrestlers pose that quandary a lot of times. And you saw even in the first UFC fight when she fought Carmouche, Liz was able to get her back and had her in trouble.
Yeah,
had her in trouble
with the neck crank.
Had her in trouble with a neck crank. And those are the type of moves that you have to worry about. A wrestler is very comfortable in being on the ground. And we know Ronda is very comfortable in being on the ground. She has to be ready, I think, this time for somebody who's just as capable, because I don't think she's met anyone who's been capable with a ground game and grappling as Sarah McMahon would be.
Oh, no, there's no question about it. You're talking about a silver medal Olympic, wrestler.
Yeah.
This is not somebody who's just, I've wrestled a couple people when I was in college. Like, no, she's been doing this for a while now.
Yeah. And this is going to be interesting to watch because Ronda, I think, has built up quite the. She's a superstar, starring in movies, starring in commercials, endorsements. I mean, she's hot. Look at her. I mean, she's a damn good fighter. Yeah,
exactly.
People
hate her attitude, but she wins.
But when you get
to get that mole removed,
yeah,
that is true.
There you go.
That is true. She has to get that battle scar moved out of there.
Yeah, but that's like looking at a very small microscopic.
Well, I mean, Leslie,
speck of dirt on the Mona Lisa.
You have your opinions. Other people have theirs. You just have to understand that, bro.
Hey, in the words of Hustle Man number 5, I hit it. Hey, I don't discriminate at all. But look,
I be like Austin Powers. Every time I look at her,
All right, man. Let's get back to the fighting, man. Of course, and then we've been through Daniel Cormier and Pat Cummins. A bit of a disappointment we won't have Rashad here, but Cormier, if he's going to make a statement, it has to be right here.
Yeah, but I'm like, I give the fact, Patrick Cummins. I'm like, no disrespect to the Fertitta brothers, no disrespect to shout out to the Fertitta brothers in the UFC, but it's like, who really? Yeah. This is who you pick to fight Cormier, the former Strikeforce Grand Prix champion.
Yeah, the
guy has been calling out every single big name in his division, and he trains with Cain Velasquez all the time.
Exactly. And, I just kind of, and this last thing before we go to break, the last fight we're going to look at, Rory McDonald and Damian Maia. Rory, to me, has been sensational.
No, he was sensational.
Okay, well, his last fight, he wasn't he wasn't the villain I expected him to be. But I've seen what he's done. I see what he did to aging BJ Penn, but was very convincing.
It's an aging BJ
You're
Penn.
right. You're right.
You and I both know this was the prodigy in the 90s. That would never happen.
Right, but break down the McDonald Maya fight for me. Yeah, I mean, what are you looking for? What specific things are you looking for in that fight?
I'm looking for Damian to do what he does best. He's a world Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion. He's going to take him to the ground, pound him out a little bit, and try to submit him.
Yeah, but we see what Rory's tactics are. He's very quick. Maintains his distance. Not unlike Machida.
Right.
At times, but he keeps his distance. But he does, and he is a very good striker. But you're right, Damian. He is a world class BJJ practitioner.
Yes,
and I think the cat and mouse of that is going to be very interesting. Looking up to UFC. Also on the card next week will be Mike Pyle and TJ Wahlberger, and of course Stephen Thompson and Robert Whitaker. Should be a very big night next week for UFC 170. But we're going to go ahead and take another break. When we come back on the other side of the break, we are going to talk a little bit about pro wrestling. The big story, of course, for a lot of us who are smarks, and if you listen to pro wrestling, you know what a smark is. Our boy CM Punk gone. Is he off the reservation for good, or is he coming back? That's what we're talking about. DMVCS on the clinch. Your boy Manuel Lewis right next to me. I am B Cox, a.k.a. Lesson. We'll be right back.